Once upon a time, on an ordinary afternoon, everything began to unfold. It was one of those days when I returned home from the gym, utterly spent and yearning for a refreshing shower. The house was eerie quiet as I stepped inside. It struck me that both my mum and my sister were absent from the scene. It was only me. Silence reigns. Strange, yet it had been this way for years now. Ever since my dad left us 5 years ago, I had become familiar with the stillness of the house in his absence. Yet, I found no reason to care. It was simply the way of the world, as it always had been. I made my way directly to the bathroom, a swirl of emotions within me. The perspiration from my exertions begins to adhere to my skin. In my rush, I suddenly became aware that I had forgotten to pick up any clothes to slip into after my shower. Yet I felt no concern, for the house was empty. I considered it and thought, why not? I'll finish in just a few minutes while they remain occupied. I'll return shortly. I let my garments fall carelessly in the heart of the home and ventured towards the sanctuary of the bathroom. The warm water enveloped me, a soothing embrace that swept away the fatigue of my workout. I lingered a bit more than usual in the shower, relishing the tranquility that enveloped me. I was not in a flurry of thoughts. I believed I had ample moments to relax. Yet unbeknownst to me, time was posed to embark on an unexpected journey. As I emerged from the shower, the water cascading down my skin, I found myself unexpectedly exposed, caught in a moment that took me by surprise. I stepped back into the living room, anticipating the same stillness and solitude that had greeted me upon my arrival. Instead, there were my mum and sister sitting on the couch, their expressions mirroring my own shock at the sight of them in the living room, where I had left my clothes just moments ago, struck me like a ton of bricks. My heart paused for a fleeting second. In that suspended moment, we found ourselves caught in an unexpected tableau. I had never anticipated anyone being home, let alone stumbling upon such a scene. In that moment of vulnerability, the silence enveloped me, extending endlessly, as if time itself had paused. Their eyes sparkled with surprise, perhaps even a hint of amusement dancing within them. I found myself utterly speechless. In a whirlwind of urgency, I snatched my clothes, a wave of embarrassment washing over me like never before, and hurriedly made my way to my room. My face flushed crimson, caught in the throes of the most excruciatingly awkward and embarrassing moment of my existence, as panic enveloped me like a thick fog. As I secured the door, a whirlwind of thoughts swirled in my mind, grappling with the events that had just unfolded. Thoughts swirled in a whirlwind. How could I have been so thoughtless? My heart sank in embarrassment. And though my family showed understanding afterward, the embarrassment never fully faded. It's been about a week since that moment. For a time, I wove a tale in my mind that everything was just as it should be. I whispered to myself that perhaps they had simply overlooked it, or perhaps it had faded into the background of their lives. It was a singularly uncomfortable moment. Life has a way of returning to its usual rhythm. Yet despite my efforts to move on, an unsettling presence remained, something that felt out of place. An unspoken tension hung in the air, palpable and thick, as if the very atmosphere was charged with anticipation. A presence that lingers, much like a shadow that never truly departed. After observing my sister's recent behavior towards me, I found myself pondering whether they had truly forgotten, or if perhaps they had not. In the solitude of my room, I found myself immersed in the enchanting realm of the video game, where reality faded away and adventure awaited at every turn. I was playing the sound of buttons clicking and the exhilarating rush of in-game action enveloped me, providing a fleeting escape from the lingering awkwardness that had settled around me. I found myself lost in thought, drifting through the moments without much consideration. What had transpired before I heard the door creak open? As I glanced over, there she was, me sister, a playful smirk dancing across her lips. As she entered the room, I offered her a fleeting smile, anticipating that she would soon weave a tale about something intriguing. Utterly disconnected, as was customary, she didn't merely engage in conversation. Instead, she playfully bantered with me, her laughter echoing through the atmosphere as she poked fun at something light-hearted. As was her custom, it appeared harmless at the outset, merely a whimsical banter exchange between us. Many times throughout the years, yet, there was an unmistakable shift in her demeanor this time. Her laughter wasn't merely playful. It carried a weight, and her touch lingered longer than before, weaving a deeper connection between us. It felt as though she was attempting to nudge some limit. Initially, I found myself unready for the unfolding events, believing it to be merely a chapter in the usual sibling saga. Perhaps she was simply embracing a sense of whimsy, much like the playful exchanges we frequently shared. As we journeyed through our formative years, we shared countless moments of joy, from playful antics to the simple pleasure of laughter over our cherished inside jokes. It was a bond that wrapped around us like a warm blanket, making us feel at ease and intertwined. As she approached, her hand gently grazing my shoulder or back while she leaned in to whisper something, a sense of unease began to creep in. The touches were gentle, not forceful or unwelcome, yet they carried a deeper significance, thoughtful, more purposeful than ever before. A lingering sensation clung to me, a whisper of change that had settled in since that fateful day. Perhaps I was simply lost in my thoughts, for in the end, she remained my sister. We had always shared a bond, yet I found myself unable to dismiss the subtle, persistent whisper in my thoughts that prompted me to question whether things had shifted. Was I conjuring illusions? Or was there an unspoken sentiment she was attempting to convey? Her laughter rang out, her playful touch on my arm as she teased me about my gameplay. Yet, the atmosphere had shifted. The comfort and ease I had felt before were now overshadowed by an unsettling tension. I found myself at a loss for words, striving to immerse myself in the game. Yet her presence loomed larger, more palpable than ever before. It seemed as though she was making an effort to introduce a topic that had remained untouched by both of us. Was daunting. What made it even more challenging was my uncertainty on how to react. Should I pretend that everything is just as it should be? Nothing had shifted. Yet was it wiser to confront the unspoken truth? Even as discomfort lingered with each passing moment, I began to sense a heightened awareness, acutely attuned to each subtle touch and every fleeting glance, leaving me to ponder endlessly what was unfolding in her mind, and whether this was merely her being herself, or if there was something more profound at work, remains a mystery. As I immersed myself in the world of my video game, my attention was captured entirely by the screen, leaving me blissfully unaware of the surroundings that faded into the background. Her hand brushed against my thigh, a fleeting sensation that barely registered in my mind. I wondered if it was merely an accidental touch, something she often played with in her playful manner. That I was completely immersed in the game, seeking that elusive reaction. Yet, as it unfolded once more, a subtle feeling of discomfort began to swell within me. The third time, it became clear that she was purposefully extending her hand, lingering in a manner that felt far from accidental. Not at all. At last, I extricated myself from the game, coming to the understanding that it required my attention. "Mia, stop!" I exclaimed, pushing away from the console and turning to face her fully. My voice emerged with a force I hadn't anticipated, each word lingering in the atmosphere. Her expression transformed, a playful grin she often wore slipping away into stillness, established between us for the first time. I noticed a shift in her expression, a blend of surprise and perhaps a trace of pain. We were siblings, after all, woven together by carefree closeness, a bond that had always thrived on trust and playfulness. Yet, here I was, enveloped in that heavy silence, sensing an unusual tension in the air. As I constructed something, an unsettling sensation washed over me. It felt as though an invisible line had been crossed, and in that instant, I found myself questioning every aspect of the moment. "What troubles you, Che?" she finally inquired. As the quiet fell away, her smirk reemerged. Yet it carried a sharpness I had never witnessed before, unable to resist a hint of playful banter. Her tone carried an unspoken challenge, as if inviting me to face whatever had changed in the air. Between us, the spark that once danced in her eyes had faded, replaced by a depth that was more challenging to decipher. I inhaled deeply, grounding myself as I stood before her. "You must let go of what you witnessed that day," I declared with conviction, striving to dispel the tension that hung in the air. I hoped those words would help her see that we needed to let go of certain things from the past, things that weren't meant to linger or alter the way we perceived one another. She halted in her tracks, casting me a mock-offended glance. Her arms crossed dramatically as she fixed me with a piercing stare. The usual light-hearted spark in her eyes had vanished, replaced by a playful yet intense gaze. A yielding gaze. How might I bring this to a close? How could I ever erase the vision from my mind? With a playful glint in her eye, she lifted an eyebrow, a smirk dancing at the corner of her mouth. "I've never encountered anything as grand as that. It's truly remarkable. And having you as my brother makes it even more special. Wouldn't you like to share it with me?" "Oh, come now. Just allow me the chance to give it a go already." I rolled my eyes, taken aback. Yet she continued undeterred. "It is evident that she pondered this deeply. Moreover," she remarked, tilting her head as if preparing to unveil a grand revelation, "my mother even expressed a desire to give it a go, and my father, lacking the courage, didn't dare to ask her. If you doubt my words, just inquire for yourself." With an air of assurance, she unleashed her beloved strategy, the one that always garnered her mother's approval. It was clear she understood I would struggle to counter that. I rushed over to my mum, my heart racing, nearly tripping over my own words in my shock. "Mum, what on earth is she talking about? Did she really say that?" My voice trailed off as I tried to process what I had just heard. My mum looked at me, a bit taken aback but still composed. She let out a little chuckle and said, "Well, she's actually right. At 55 years old, I never thought I would witness something like this. But then, one day, she appeared before me, her voice resonating with an enchanting quality, gentle yet brimming with a steadfast resolve. Her gaze met mine, a blend of hope and sorrow swirling in her eyes as she spoke. "Come on. We're your family. We love you, and we want you to be with us. Please, don't shut us out." She took a deep breath before continuing. "It's been hard without your father, He passed away 5 years ago, and I've been left to hold everything together on my own. I've tried my best, but there are so many moments when I feel completely overwhelmed. Some days are just so lonely, and I could really use someone to lean on. Someone who understands. I cherish you deeply, and I understand that your father would have wished for us to remain close, to support one another through thick and thin." She paused for a moment, as if summoning the strength to continue, and then her voice emerged, laced with urgency. "Your sister, she's nearly 23 now. Young, yes, but she's been facing her own battles. She's never really had anyone to lean on, no boyfriend, no close friend she can truly rely on. She feels so alone." Her grip on my hand tightened, her voice softening. "We're not asking for much, I promise. You'll find joy in it. You'll rediscover that sense of belonging. It's what we all crave, and I truly believe it's what you need as well." Her gaze held a quiet intensity, drawing me in. In that moment, it felt as if time itself had come to a standstill. Without a hint of warning, she reached for the hem of my shirt. Her fingers, steady yet swift, slipped beneath the fabric, lifting it with a grace that was both deliberate and tender. It was as if she were guided by an impulse she herself didn't fully comprehend. I stood there, frozen, my mind racing to grasp the unfolding scene. Yet my body seemed to have forgotten how to respond. Every subtle gesture she made, the gentle brush of her fingers against my skin, the way she tilted her head was etched in my memory. A vivid tapestry of sensations and emotions intertwining in that fleeting moment seemed to carry an unspoken message that I was struggling to decipher. Then she began to unbutton her shirt, her hands moving slowly, almost carefully. Each button came undone, her gaze never leaving mine, and I could feel my heart pounding. My breath caught somewhere between shock and intrigue. I didn't know what to say or if there was anything I should say. I didn't make a single move, unable to break the spell that had taken over the room as she continued. A surreal atmosphere enveloped us, like we were both suspended in a place where words no longer had meaning, where actions spoke louder than anything we could possibly say. Wanted to ask her what was going on, to understand the reason behind this sudden shift, but my voice felt trapped in my throat. All I could do was watch as she peeled away the last layers of clothing, and it felt like each movement was somehow slow, and yet impossibly fast. It was as if time itself was bending. I was still just trying to comprehend what was happening, to make sense of the emotions swirling in my head: curiosity, disbelief, a touch of apprehension. It was all happening so quickly, yet every second felt like it stretched out, hanging in the air, leaving me in a state of wonder and confusion. The moment I laid eyes on them without any clothing, something changed in me entirely. It was as if the world paused for a beat, drawing my attention to every detail of their bare skin, the way it caught the light, the soft curves and lines that seemed to invite my touch. It wasn't merely an impulse, but a slow-building need that resonated in every fiber of my being, a craving that even surprised me. Thoughts of restraint began to blur, fading into the background as a more primal urge took center stage. In that instant, the only reality was the space between us and the undeniable pull I felt toward them. My mind was filled with vivid images of what it would feel like, the texture of their skin under my fingertips, a warmth I could almost sense radiating from them. It was a magnetic draw, both thrilling and consuming, leaving me on the edge of something I couldn't quite grasp. In that moment, a name echoed in my mind, but what I truly craved was an experience that transcended mere words. My heart raced, each beat resonating with a fervor that quickened my breath, as the yearning to close the distance between us surged within me. Every rational thought dissolved, replaced by an overwhelming longing that was both foreign and exhilarating. The world around us faded into the background, leaving just the three of us suspended in this electric moment. It wasn't merely a physical desire. It was a profound connection that felt destined, as if every choice I'd made had guided me to this precise instant. In that charged atmosphere, all I could focus on was the anticipation of a touch, the thrill of an unspoken bond waiting to ignite. Without a moment's hesitation, we plunged into the depths of that connection. We dove headfirst into the pursuit of our three deepest desires, scarcely pausing to ponder the consequences. Each urge, each concealed wish, clawed its way to the surface, demanding our attention. The thrill and liberation of acting on them consumed us, like an intoxicating rush that whisked us away from any semblance of caution or doubt. It was exhilarating, even liberating, to silence the familiar voices of reason, cautionary whispers that might have otherwise restrained us. We found ourselves swept up in a whirlwind of powerful momentum, propelling us forward with every choice, no matter how reckless. Each decision only intensified the feeling that we were unstoppable, untouchable. We were propelled by a whirlwind of excitement, impatience, and perhaps a hint of defiance. These desires were the very fabric of our fantasies, woven together with dreams of what life could be if we dared to pursue them without restraint. Now, everything was unfolding like a vivid dream brought to life. Yet, in our fervor, we overlooked the ripple effects that might be set in motion. the echoes that could return to confront us. The consequences loomed like vague, distant shadow sun-welcome truths we preferred to ignore. It felt as though the future could wait. What mattered was seizing this fleeting sense of freedom, as if time itself had paused for our moment. Perhaps we would pause, if only for a fleeting moment, allowing ourselves to revel in the experience. Each action felt not just justified, but essential, as if a part of us, long concealed, was finally liberated. And so we pressed on, propelled solely by the exhilaration of seizing all we had yearned for, racing forward with our hearts fully exposed and our minds resolutely closed to the possible repercussions of our choices.